Really? Met one. Met one. Yeah? Okay, good. Because that's the first thing we're going to talk about. We're going to have an AA meeting here. And the purpose of having the AA meeting is partly so that you will all know what they are, and it won't feel strange to you if you ever feel the need to go to one. And the other thing is you will know what happens basically at an AA meeting so that you will be able to have a kind of a bullshit monitor when you're talking to your clients. And you will be able to ask them the all-important questions like, do you have a sponsor? You know, what step are you on? What is that step? And when they tell you, you will know it. So but first, we're going to discuss some other things like detection. So just a little aside, I feel like lately all I'm doing is coming out to you people. First I come out as a gay man, and then I come out as a sufferer of anxiety disorder, and now I'm coming out to you as a recovering alcoholic. So I promise you this is not going to be like a monthly thing. There's not a lot. There's just a very little more. This is basically everything you need to know. And it's important, though, that you know who people are. You know, the great thing, the great strides that have been made in the gay rights movement have been made because gay people decided to come out of the closet and let their neighbors know who they are and let their family members know who they are. And then once everybody knew a gay person, they found it very difficult to discriminate against them anymore. So what we're doing today is we're going to first talk about detection, because ultimately you are going to, someday, you're going to ask the question, am I an alcoholic, or is my friend an alcoholic? Is there something I should be doing? And I say that with confidence that at least one of you is going to be in that position, because the truth is that 1 out of 3 lawyers does have an alcohol problem at some point in their career. And that's just an unfortunate statistic. It rises 3 times if you work 50 plus hours per week. The average lawyer works 60 to 80 hours per week. I hope that that's not true of the people that are here. On the other hand, the 50 hours a week, you know, you can probably do that with your eyes closed. Lawyers are 3.6 times more likely to suffer from depression. And of the millions of United States adults who suffer from depression, 20%, that number can't be right. I wrote this number down, I must have made a mistake, but a huge number are lawyers, and twice that number are law students. So what we need to know is that anyone around us could have an alcohol problem, could have a substance abuse problem, could have a mental health problem, and all of these problems are competency issues as far as you're concerned, as far as the state bar is concerned. We just, in our firm, had a lawyer who had a concussion. And she came back to work, and you know, it was really obvious to all of us around her that she wasn't fully recovered yet. And we had no problem in the first couple of hours of this telling her, you know, you're not ready to be back here. You know, you're just not. And she went to the doctor, and sure enough, she wasn't. She needed another 2 weeks off. Now, no one thought anything of it. No one thought, oh, I want to spare her feelings. Oh, I don't want to tell her this. We simply saw a competency issue, and we addressed it. Alcoholism is a disease. Mental health issues are diseases. These are not things that we need to be ashamed of. They are not things we need to be embarrassed about. And as a matter of fact, the more of us who share our stories of our illnesses or our issues that we have to deal with, talk about our family, talk about our friends, talk about it with our family and with our friends, the more readily the problems, these kinds of problems, can be dealt with. So you all, most of you, said that you've met an alcoholic. Have you ever been in a position where you thought, you were wondering whether someone had an alcohol problem? Okay. So tell me, share with me a few of the things that made you think this person might have an alcohol problem. Jabron?
This person, whenever they're on social outings, they drink to excess. and do things that they wouldn't do if they weren't drinking. They function at work and in the family, but it just, and this person has specifically told me that they don't know how to do these things without drinking.
So I have given you guys, I hope you all have them, the brochures that are the 20 questions that Alcoholics Anonymous puts out, that you can take this little quiz on your own later on in the privacy of your office, and you can do with it what you will. Frankly, there are other quizzes out there that are much more all-inclusive. The person that Jabron's talking about, we took that quiz on this and he got a 0, but on another questionnaire he got a 6. So, you know, there's nothing scientific about this. But yes, as Jabron pointed out, you will see people and you will know people, and almost every social event involves alcohol. Almost every date that you have with them either starts at a bar or ends at a bar or includes a bar somewhere in the middle. These are all just signs, but it's important that you be aware of these signs. Anything else? Rachel?
Yeah.
Oh, either Rachel.
Just in terms of the person that I thought that may have.
Right, what were the signs that made you think,
Drinking a lot at home, drinking by themselves, hiding alcohol from others in the home.
Right. Hiding, keeping something a secret is always a sign of something. You know, we have an expression in AA, you are only as sick as your secrets. And it actually, all of this translates into the work that we do with our clients every day as well, because I can't even tell you how many times I've told my clients, you're only as sick as your secrets. You know, you need to tell those secrets at least to your lawyer, at least to your therapist. You need to deal with them, because there is no getting clean and sober. There is no dealing with issues if they're swept under the bed. Ms. Ewing.
Oh, I was just going to give an example of somebody who, like, drinks a bottle of wine every night. I mean, they function. Mm-hmm. They're still getting up and going to work, but they do that every night. And then when they are planning their social activities, for example, if they're going to be at a meeting or, you know, like a conference or whatever, then they take that Monday off because they know that they're probably going to be doing a little bit too much.
Yeah, that's, you know, you see these signs, and this is all contained in the handout that says Substance Abuse Symptoms Checklist. You're identifying the isolating from the source, the planning for it. Anyone else have any signs that they've seen among friends or relatives or colleagues? Okay, there are predictable patterns, like Ms. Ewing just identified. You always know that if you're going out with this person, there's going to have to be alcohol factored in somehow. Also, when they are either displaying signs of shame or guilt, they talk about, you know, oh, I shouldn't have drank that much, or why do I drink that much? Well, there is a place where people can go when they suffer from these problems, when they have these questions, and it is called Alcoholics Anonymous. It is the most successful treatment program out there. And that's why it's, you know, it's right there on the case plans that the judges like to recommend, because it does have, it's not a great recovery rate if you count everybody who walks in the door, but that's because there's a common misconception about AA. It is not a program that will help you stop drinking. It is a program that will help you continue to refrain from drinking. So a person has to have made the decision that I'm going to stop drinking. If they haven't made that decision, there's no program out there that will work. So once someone has said, I've stopped drinking, and that just means for a day. I did not drink today, and I don't want to drink tomorrow. Then you are ripe for Alcoholics Anonymous or any other 12-step program, frankly, if you have any other addiction issues. 12-step. There are 12-step programs for things like codependency and I guess your boyfriend or girlfriend can be an addiction, but I don't really understand it. I don't get it. I think it works best for alcohol, for drugs, and for overeating. People are very, very successful. Anything where you can do something for a day, and you want to be able to do it the next day. And that's what Alcoholics Anonymous promises, is that you can stay sober one day at a time. Moving on, I wanted to talk about, specifically for our millennial attorneys, you guys have made some great strides. So first of all, it used to be traditionally that Alcoholics Anonymous was mostly men. It was about 2 to 1 men. And that mirrored the general population, where men were alcoholic at the rate of about twice what women were. But with the millennial generation, women have achieved equality and are now just as alcoholic as men. So congratulations. It probably goes along with greater equality that women have the exact same stresses. Women are hopefully being treated, more often in the same way and with the same rights and with the same responsibilities, and therefore it's no surprise that they're encountering some of the same problems.
Dennis?
Yes?
I would say even more, because not only in the workforce, they're still expected to do everything in the home as was before, so it makes sense that
Spoken like a well-trained husband. Yes, that is very, very true. Even those of us who are as evolved as we can be, you have to acknowledge that women do far more in the home, and then they go and they do the exact same job at work that we do as well. So the other issues that you all have, but especially millennials have, is student loans. You have financial instability. Financial instability and professional instability are two of the great factors that influence alcohol consumption and drug use. And unfortunately, I know people who are here with student loans of in excess of $150,000. The only time that your parents probably spent that much money was when they bought a house, and it's crazy. So we have to understand what each other is dealing with. We have to understand what's going on, and we have to understand that there are a lot of problems that we run into in life. And sometimes, for all of you, life will bring you to your knees. And when you are at your knees, when you're down on your knees, I want you to know that there is someone you can go to and some place you can go to. The help is out there. You can just Google AA and you can find the nearest AA meeting. You will hopefully know more and more people who are recovering alcoholics as time goes by. You should get to know them better. I'm sure I'm not the only one in this room, but it is called Alcoholics Anonymous, so it will be up to them to identify themselves. Maybe they will during the meeting part of this. But I want you to know that there is me, and the State Bar offers something called the Lawyer Assistance Program. And the Lawyer Assistance Program is confidential. If you reach out to the Lawyer Assistance Program, don't accidentally get on the phone with someone else at the State Bar. You have to make sure that you call the Lawyer Assistance Program. But if you do call the Lawyer Assistance Program, it is confidential, and there are programs out there that are incredibly helpful. There is very, very low-cost group counseling that is all other lawyers, and it's great to go to that. They also have many free programs. They have a lot of support, and like I said, it will not be reported to anyone. I mean, don't go confessing to any crimes, but the Lawyer Assistance Program is an excellent program, and it is sponsored, paid for by your State Bar dues. This is specifically about AA and about alcoholism, so remember there are 113,000 AA groups throughout the world. I don't know what to say about this next statistic. I just throw it out because we talk about everything, whether it's difficult to talk about or easy to talk about. the composition of membership in AA meetings racially is very interesting. It's 85.1% white, 5.7% black, 4.8% Hispanic. I don't think that has anything to do with the rate that these races become alcoholic. I think it has more to do with something about the actual meetings and going to them. The success rate for 1 year of sobriety is 31%. At 5 years of sobriety is 24%. At 10 years of sobriety, it drops all the way down to 12%. But it averages out to, for over 10 years of sobriety, 33%. So if you can stay sober for the first 10 years, you have a really good chance of staying sober one day at a time for the rest of your life. Who refers people to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings? It is usually another AA member. It is usually someone who comes up to you and says, hey, you know, I'm going to this AA meeting on Friday, you want to go with me? And that really is as simple as it can be. Also, treatment facilities refer people to AA. 31% of people that go to AA meetings are just self-motivated. That was me, but you'll hear about my story later on. The statistics are pretty impressive for both happiness and hope. Yes, there are scientific studies that try to gauge happiness and hope. I don't know what we think of them. They're probably not as scientific as they would like us to believe. But they are very hopeful in their results, that happiness and hope go way up. And you know, I would have to say that if I could wish one thing, or two things, on each and every one of you, I would wish you lives full of happiness and hope. You not only should have it, you deserve it. You know, you've worked hard in your lives. Please don't let anything like alcohol, drug addiction, or mental illness stop you from living a life just brimming over with happiness and hope. It can be everyone's. All right, we're going to, I promised you an AA meeting, and we're going to have an AA meeting. And I'm going to be the secretary of this AA meeting, self-elected. And therefore I will start with, welcome to the Ladle Warriors group of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I will do little asides from time to time to explain things. There are open meetings and there are closed meetings. This has to be an open meeting so that everyone knows, if they're sharing, that they are not sharing in a room full of other alcoholics. There may be people, we call them normies, who are here as well. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. We are glad we're all here, especially newcomers. In keeping with our singleness of purpose and our third tradition, which states that the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking, we ask that all who participate confine their discussion to their problems with alcohol. The AA Preamble. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution. Does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. Now, you are going to hear God mentioned. There is a chapter in the big book. This is what we call the big book. It's not really that big, but some people call it the blue book. But this is the book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And there's a whole chapter in here called We the Agnostics. Because this program, I'm an atheist. I don't know what you all are, but the word God is used as simply a power that is greater than yourself. Because one of the things that we found that alcoholics have in common is a stunning lack of humility. You know, we think that we can actually control the world, that we can control the things that happen to us, that we are powerful. And one of the things that is common to people who are able to get sober and stay clean and sober is that they understand the fallacy of that thinking. And if I had to say one word that you should try to pass on to your clients or friends or relatives or yourselves if you ever need to is humility is the path to sobriety. I would like to ask one of our members to read How It Works. I've asked Charlie C. to read that. If you could do that, please.
Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path.
Louder, please.
Those who do not recover, people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of becoming or being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we are like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you are ready to take certain steps. At some of these, we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. We stood at the turning point. We asked his protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested a program of recovery. 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, were entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. 7, humbly asked him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood him, praying only for a knowledge of his will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order! I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear 3 pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would if he were sought.
Thank you. So that is read at every single AA meeting, all 113,000 of them all across the world. And that is everything that you would need to know, both as someone who might share that program with someone else and for your clients. you can see, I'm sure, I hope that you were thinking as you listened to that, how it is very much what our clients need to do, those of them who are alcoholics or addicts. That is what they need to show the judge that they've done. And any client who goes to court and can basically convince a judge that they have made progress with any kind of adherence to these principles, they're probably going to get their kids back. We would also like to have a member read the 12 traditions. I've asked Lee M. to read that.
12 traditions of Alcoholics Anonymous. Our common welfare should come first. Personal recovery depends upon AA unity. 2. For our group purpose, there is but one ultimate authority, a loving God as He may express Himself in our group time. Our leaders are but trusted servants, they do not govern. 3. The only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. 4. Each group should be autonomous, except in matters affecting other groups or AA as a whole. 5. Each group has but one primary purpose, to carry its message to the alcoholic who still suffers. 6. An AA group ought never endorse, finance, or lend the AA name to any related facility or outside enterprise, thus problems of money, property, and prestige divert us from our primary purpose. 7. Every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, without outside contribution. 8. Alcoholics Anonymous should remain forever non-professional, but our service centers may employ special workers. 9. AA, as such, ought never be organized, but we may create service boards or committees directly responsible to those they serve. 10. Alcoholics Anonymous has no opinion on outside issues, hence the AA name ought never be drawn into public controversy. 11. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion, and we need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and film. 12. Anonymity is the spiritual foundation of all our traditions, ever reminding us to place principles before personality.
Thank you very much. At this point, we ask if there are any newcomers within 30 days. We also give cakes to celebrate years of sobriety. Today, the only person eligible for a cake would be yours truly. I was actually going to do this last year when I celebrated my 25 years of sobriety birthday, but I chickened out. And so now I'm doing it this year. I am 26 years clean and sober. That was really nice. I needed that. So at this point, I'm to briefly qualify regarding my experience with Alcoholics Anonymous as your secretary. I'm happy to do that. So now, after years of therapy and years of working the 12 steps, I know that my story really began when I was 10 years old, and a drunk driver collided with our car, came head-on into our lane. When my family, my mom, my dad, and my little brother, who was 3, were on our way to Thanksgiving at my grandma's house in Arizona. The drunk driver killed my dad and my little brother, and my mom woke up with her 3-year-old in her arms. She was on the floor. All the bones on one side of her body were broken. She was screaming and screaming. All I remember is wandering away from the car and then wandering back to the car, trying to get my dad's attention, but there was nothing here on this side where his arm would be. The nicest thing I have, the best memory I have, and it's odd that you can have a best memory and a worst memory out of just about any circumstance. As the car came at us, my dad did this. I was sitting in the front seat. My mom was in the back seat with my brother. I was sitting in the front seat with my dad, and my dad did this. And so the last gesture, the last thing I remember of my dad is him trying to protect me and trying to keep me safe. And it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. It's a wonderful thing to be able to take from an incident like that. My mom thought that childhood had protected me from all of the psychological fallout of that. She thought that I didn't need any counseling. She didn't believe in it. So I never got any, I never even went to see the school psychologist, interestingly enough. I talked to a couple of kids at school. when I got back to school, and we got bored with it after a while. And what was there to say? Yep, my dad died. So having nothing to do with psychiatry or psychology or really even religion. I just lived my life, and I went to school and went to law school and finished everything that needed to be done. And it wasn't until I was married and started having some problems in my marriage, and now you guys know so much, you can write the rest of this story. Because it wasn't just the car accident. But that marriage failed. But that's where my alcoholism began. Everybody says that you have to hit bottom. In order to get to the point where you're willing to stop drinking or using, you have to hit bottom, and everybody's bottom can be the same, can be different. Some people have to end up on Skid Row before they realize they've hit bottom. I bet each and every one of you have at least one client who you're just looking at them and saying, how can you not have hit bottom yet? What's left? There's nothing between where you are and a grave, if you don't turn it around. But, that's their story. My story, my bottom was, so I was also a writer, and I was writing. I had just had a successful play that had won some awards, so I needed to write a second one. So I stopped at a bar every day on the way home from my job. And one day, sorry. This is not a good advertisement for the Apple Watch. So one day, though, my wife had told me that she had something she had to do and she needed me home by 7 o'clock. And make a long story short, at 7:05, I looked up and, I heard a voice in my head say, it was you bastard, you asshole, or you son of a bitch. I can't remember which one, but it was one of those. And I looked over, and there was my 3-year-old daughter plopped down on the bar stool next to me. And that was all it took. I mean, it was just in that moment, like, holy crap, what have I done? I went the next night. I was going to a bar. I was driving on my way to the bar, and I decided to go to an AA meeting instead, because I happened to know where there was one. And I went there, and I was fortunate enough to meet people. One guy, the first guy I met, said, so you think you've hit your bottom? I said, yeah, and I told him my story. He said, that's not a bottom. Come back when you've been on Skid Row. And I was like, fuck you. If I say that's my bottom, that's my bottom. This hole. And then this other guy, this house painter, came up to me and he said, do you have a sponsor yet? And I said, no. And he said, well, I'll be your sponsor. I'll be your sponsor temporarily until you find a better one. And he ended up being my sponsor for 7 years until he moved away. He took me through the steps. So the point of that is when your client says, no, I haven't found a sponsor yet. It's a long process finding a sponsor. Yeah, no, it's not. It's just right there, and you can always change sponsors if you find that you don't have one or you don't like yours. Your sponsor should be your same sex unless you're gay, and then it should be in the opposite sex. The bottom line is you don't want to have a 13th step situation, which is, everybody knows. Wow, you all know that. Awesome. I never relapsed. I don't know why. I wanted to plenty of times. I think it was just probably being a lawyer. Having exposure, to people that had been addicts and alcoholics before me. Also, having the 12 steps, being smart enough to realize that the 12 steps were just, if you wanted success, you need to follow it. I mean, I'd taken the bar, I'd studied for the bar, I'd gotten through law school, I was used to following instructions. And then also I had the fatherless kid thing on top of that, desperate for someone to kind of take me under their wing, and the program did just that. And so I worked these steps. The 4th step, by the way, is the bitch. When you talk to your clients and you want to know if they're really working a program, you ask them what step are you on. And if they say anything past the 4th step, you say what was the hardest step. and they will say, if they're actually working a program, they will say the fourth step. Because the fourth step involves pages and pages and pages of writing. It involves 4 columns, and these are the keys. If your client tells you, yeah, I made 4 columns, oh, okay, you really did it then. It's not rocket scientist, but you have to put down every single person you've ever had a resentment against, and that's pretty much, if you're an alcoholic, everyone you've ever met. You know, the obstetrician who delivered you, if he'd done it right, you probably wouldn't be an alcoholic. So, you know, everything after that, you just write down their names, and then you have to talk about how they affected you, what they did, like so-and-so cheated on me. And then you have to write down how that made you feel. Well, it made me feel, it wrecked my self-esteem, it affected my sex life, it hurt my feelings. And then you have to write down your place in it. Well, I had cheated on her. So, yeah, it all comes back to you. And that's a fourth step. You go through that with everyone in your life, and you kind of have some perspective. And then the fifth step is where you read it to your sponsor and you throw it away. My sponsor had me flush it down the toilet. Some sponsors have you burn it or take it to the dramatic ones, take you to the beach. And you read your fourth step at the beach, and then you set it a sail. You turn it into a little boat. You set it sail on the tide. But you don't have to do that. You can just read it and throw it away. So I did that, and shortly after I'd been clean and sober for several years, I discovered this work. I discovered this courthouse. The first time I walked into this courthouse, I knew that all of my life's experiences came together in that building. And that's why I may have an inordinate love for this job and for that building and for all of you who practice this law. Because it really, nothing about me was a freak in that building. In that building, I am experience. I have experience in just about everything that our clients, have to deal with, and it's, it's a pretty wonderful thing that is filled with hope and happiness for me. And I owe my life to the 12 steps, and I hope that whatever 1 or 2 of you here someday need the program, I hope you will come to me and let me take you to your first meeting, because I know where the good ones are. And there's one, I'll just steer you away right now. There's this place in Santa Monica in Pacific Palisades. So meetings have a name, like we're the Ladle Warriors right now. There's the Great Fact Group, that's where I got clean and sober. And then there's the Pacific Group. Whew. So the Pacific Group have the reputation for being Nazi AA. Like, you get a sponsor in the Pacific Group, and they tell you, shave off that beard. You're like, what does shaving off the beard have anything to do with my sobriety? You want to be sober? Shave off the beard. And you either come back with the beard shaven, or you no longer have a sponsor. It's crazy. And there are people who are really, really, really struggling with humility who need the lessons of the Pacific Group, I guess. I'm not one of them. I wanted, I wanted to go to meetings where there were people like me, where there were just, and when I said, I just mean anybody who is, just watches friends on TV and, goes to work and maybe has a kid. So, I'll be happy to take you, and I'll take you to a good meeting. All right, is there anyone else who would like to share? Do you have a question?
I have a question.
Ask a question.
So, you've talked a lot about the need to have a desire to stop.
Yes.
So how do we get our clients who are court-ordered into this, who may not have a desire to stop, how do we get them to participate enough so that they can come into court and say, I know what the steps are, and I got a sponsor, and I did all of this?
Great question. Number one, you don't. If they do not want to stop, they're not going to stop. Here's what you do. You are the voice of honesty. You tell them you are looking like you don't want to stop. The judge is going to think, because you're still testing positive, that you don't want to stop. If the judge thinks you don't want to stop, there's no way to have a happy ending here. Now of course, you're lawyers. I don't need to tell you to go out there and be lawyers and make sure that that's really what's happening. But yeah, you have to tell your clients the truth. and you don't do them any favors by you trying to think of ways for them to stop, they've got to hit bottom. And like I told you, the bottom can be Skid Row, or it could just be having your 3-year-old daughter plop down on a bar stool next to you. But something has to happen. If having your kids taken away from you, in dependency court isn't enough, have the honest conversation with your client, because maybe you don't even need to go through FR. Maybe they know that they're not fit to be a parent. I've had now at this point in my career so many parents who have come up to me at 2-6 hearings and said, why did we do all this? Why did we wait all these years when my kid could have just been adopted by my parents 2 years ago? And the real answer to that is, you know what? Because I was so invested in being a lawyer and fighting for you to get your kids back that I forgot to ask you if that's really what you wanted. That's kind of sad, right? Put them through all of that, all of those conversations with social workers, when if I had just brought it up at the first day, like, you can, if you're not ready to stop drinking, no judgments. Not everybody is ready to be a parent, not everybody wants to be a parent, not everybody's cut out to be a parent. If the most loving thing that you can think of to do for your kids is to let them be adopted by your grandparents, we can go forward with that. And I do see in LADL, we do more, we pay attention to 360A more, and we do these things, and that's impressive. We didn't do those so much when we were panel. We just fought for everybody to get their kids back. But the truth is that there are some people that know, even on that first day, that they don't want their kids back. Yes, ma'am?
How do you move from step to step? Like, how do you decide which step you are on? Because I feel like I've had clients who've been on step 2 for what seems like forever.
Well, because I am a recovering alcoholic, I can actually go through the first 3 steps with my clients. If they are acknowledging that they want to stop drinking and they don't know how to stop drinking, then they've worked the first step. They are powerless over alcohol. And if losing your kids isn't your life becoming unmanageable, I don't know what is. So you can actually take them through the first 3 steps right there and say, aren't these things all true? Don't we have evidence? Because that's all a sponsor will do. A sponsor will take you to that first step and say, so what's your life like now? It's like, well, I'm getting divorced and my daughter got plopped down on the bar stool next to me because I'm at the bar every night, and I'm drinking, and, yeah. And he says, well, have you tried stopping drinking on your own? Yeah. How'd that work for you? Yeah, it didn't work so well. I'm still drinking. Well, then you're powerless over alcohol and your life's become unmanageable. Go on to the second step. And you can actually take them through those. But if they're saying, oh, I've been on the second step for 6 weeks, ask them for their sponsor's name and let them know, listen, I understand it could take a year to work all 12 steps, but my client is trying to get their kids back. They're going to the 12-step program under the supervision of a judge. Don't say they're going to the 12-step program because the judge ordered them to, because nobody wants to be that guy's sponsor. But if you're saying they're committed to the 12-step program, but under the supervision of a judge, we've got to have, we need to be through the 5th step within 6 months. Yes, ma'am?
Is there any way to work the steps without a sponsor?
Yes, but it's really, really hard, because it's the experience and the strength and the hope that underlines everything that's in here. So if you have a client that says, I want to do it on my own, I would make sure they have the book, make sure that they've, and I would set up an appointment. I'd say, okay, you've got the book at home, read chapter 5 and then call me. Because chapter 5 is how it works. And it's basically what Charlie read earlier.
Have you been a
Yes.
sponsor?
Pardon me?
Have you been a sponsor?
I have been a sponsor.
How many times?
Oh, about 18, 20.
Are you open if we have a client that we say, I got somebody for you?
I will admit this is probably not a good idea, but earlier, before LADL, I probably sponsored 2 or 3 of my clients, but never, I couldn't sponsor anybody else's. Yes, sir?
What do you do with the situation where, despite your extremely competent representation, the judge sustains a substance abuse allegation against someone, even though the evidence is just that they used, and you have someone who's
not an alcoholic or an addict? Yeah, I don't know anything about that. I mean, you know, that you shouldn't let that happen. I mean, and I've even told judges.
And you had nothing to do with
Well, I have gone as far to tell a judge, Your Honor, this person, without stronger evidence that this person actually has a drug addiction, they are going to go to program after program and they're not going to be helped because everybody turns them away. You know, if you come to AA and ask me to be your sponsor, but you tell me, but I'm not an addict, I'm going to say, I don't know how to help you. I only know about being an addict. So I do think, well, we did do a training a couple of years ago for all the judges. The bench has changed so much that I think one of the bench officers, one of the county council, I, and a parent are going to redo where we actually did very much like this. We had an AA meeting for the judges. And I actually even remember Diaz making a ruling in a parent's favor after that. So miracles come out. Rosetta.
Thank you for sharing, Jen.
Thank you.
My question is about the timeline. So with the understanding that some of our clients have as little as 6 months, you mentioned that you can do the first 3 steps relatively quickly.
Yeah.
What is a reasonable time period? If they come back in 2 weeks and said, I finished all the steps, is that unreasonable? Like, how long could
So
it take?
because I am the overachiever I did the 12 steps the first time in 4 months. And my sponsor was telling me I was doing it too quickly, and you know, but that's what I was committed to. I had to go back again a couple of years later, and I spent like a year and a half doing them again. But you know, that's okay too. You've got a goal. You've got a goal. You know, you've got an agenda for your client. You can't, obviously, you can't substitute that for your client's personal agenda, but you need to tell them, and you need to always tell them, listen, I'm willing to talk to your sponsor if you want me to, because we've got 6 months. And if you can get to the amends, to me the whole thing is to get those first 5 steps done so that you can get to the amends, because I think has anybody here heard my I'm sorry training? My 3-part apology training? Oh, maybe it's time to redo that. So the apology, I think, is so important. We have so many kids that are just fed up with their parents. Grandparents who are fed up with their kids who are the parents. And then those who are actually working a program and doing the steps, and they make an amends, even if it's a half-assed amends, it really does turn things around, you know. Yes?
I've been in meetings where the sponsor has said, you're going to work 1 step a year. But the trick to that is that your client needs to be able to recite the 12 steps. Because if I have somebody on the stand and I say, what step are you on? And they say, step 1, the judge will go, "Rrr." And I say, what is step 1? They tell you. Then you say, well, what's step 2? Can you tell me the rest of the steps? Credibility, just like that. Because you aren't trying to get your graduate degree in sobriety. You're trying to work the steps and change your life and change your patterns. And that's what judges will understand.
Mm-hmm. Yes?
Question just in terms of how the alcohol treatment programs and AA work together. So, you know, a lot of times the court will order them to do an alcohol treatment program and then to do aftercare
Right.
and AA. I mean, in the alcohol treatment programs, is there usually an AA component happening, or how do those two work together?
Yeah, and the alcohol treatment programs almost always work with AA. They usually, after the first 30 days or so, they start sending you to 1 or 2 AA meetings a week. They all know about the 12 steps. They all teach some variation on the 12 steps. Some rely on God exclusively, a God in a much more traditional form. Some people, there are actual rehabs that don't have anything to do with God for people who are atheists or agnostics. The 12 steps is pretty pervasive. It really has taken the lead because of its success since 1930. But yeah, I don't know what some of these programs do, and if we were in a perfect world, I think that we should be checking out our clients' rehabs, especially when it's a name we don't recognize. and we should give them a call, and we should actually say, what do you have a book you follow? Do you have a system you follow? What is it you're doing? Because our clients who are going there and can barely get the letter that says that they went, I don't know what these programs are doing. But yes, the 12-step program is an awesome aftercare. You know, once they've been through a rehab or been through a residential program, and then they come out, and we have an expression, 90 meetings in 90 days. You go to 90 meetings in 90 days, you're going to find people you like, you're going to hear what you need to hear. Because the first time you heard it, when Charlie was talking, you know, the first time I heard it at least, all I could think about was the differences between me and everyone else who was there. And it takes a while before you start seeing the similarities between yourself and the guy from Skid Row. Ms. Ewing.
So, given actually the stated goal of having autonomous meetings, right, that you're going to go to a different meeting and have different compositions, right? Should we be letting the bench officers believe that you can just walk into a meeting and immediately have a sponsor without knowing anybody, meeting anybody? I guess maybe I'm too gullible, but I believe my clients when they have told me that they walked in and it took a few times before they felt comfortable with somebody.
Sure, I mean, I'm not going to, again, we call that taking someone else's inventory. I'm not going to take another newcomer's inventory and tell them that they should have gotten a sponsor on day one. But when we're, you know, back, if they started going to meetings at the detention hearing, and we're back for the adjudication now, and they're saying, I've been going to 3 to 5 meetings a week and I still don't have a sponsor, that's not okay. But what I can do is I will give them advice, because we don't let problems just sit there and fester, we try to fix them. So, have you gone to a women's stag? Or if it's a man, have you gone to a men's stag? Because, you know, men and women still want to, they still pose in front of each other. They, you know, when you put them all in a room, there's other dynamics going on. Whereas it's just women in a room, you know, they can be maybe a little bit more honest. And it's nice to commit. Who wouldn't want to just go to a group, you know, once a week that is supportive and will call you on your bullshit when you're full of it, but mostly are supportive and wanting you to be a better person, be the best version of yourself. I mean, that's a gift and it's free. You know, we are self-supporting through our tradition, through our own contributions, and we pass a basket normally at this point, and you put in $1. Everybody puts